and then we just have to date each other, and that's all that happens.
If I was a girl,
I think it's not as weird as a lot of people seem to think it is.
at least 50% of divorces in the USA. Welcome back, everyone. We have a special guest on today, Aaron, fellow Tag Pro player and
Yo.
anomaly of the world. And today we're talking about love, about relationships and everything under the sun. Um, Aaron is a big expert on this topic, so hopefully he'll be able to
Mm.
shed some light on it for the people at home. He is going to get you paired up, let's just say that. So, Aaron, if you want to introduce yourself any further, if there's anything I didn't cover, let the people know, and we can just start talking.
Right. Yo gamers and non-gamers of the world. Uh, honestly, yeah, tag pro player and love like extraordinaire is pretty much my entire identity. So, yo, yeah, freaking let's just go for it.
To get started, we weren't really sure where we wanted to go. Um, One thing we were kind of tossing around is an idea of like, what are either like deal breakers or red flags that you'd look for. I think, we could open the topic up to just like relationships in general too, because I think a lot of what you'd look for people in general, you'd want to look for in a partner as well. Um,
Right, right.
I I don't think you'd want to make like large exceptions to someone if you wanted to be with them long term. So anything I would look for in Aaron, I would also look for in a not GF. So that goes for Ag Pro and anything else. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that? And I guess what are some things that you just look for people in general? And I mean, kind of widely conversated, but one's gotten to hear your point of view. So shed some light on that.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess I mean it was you're mostly memeing, but like, the thing is like what is it like you're hey, sorry. Just had a freak out moment. Okay. Your partner should be like your kind of your best friend is what they say in terms of like the qualities that are in a good friend are found in your partner. We had like a little pre-show, pre-game conversation, secret to those to the public you viewing right now, and I'm sorry. But I kind of got into the idea that because of my actual lack of experience, I mean, I am the love expert, but like, um, it's in spite of my lack of experience that I am an expert. So, um, the
He's
point
he's
is that
more of
like
a
if
coach
you're
than he plays the field. Probably a better way to put it.
that is wow, just good stuff right there. Okay. Um, so I like in terms of deal breakers or whatever, you kind of have to have experience to kind of know, right? Like I don't know what kind of person I am in a relationship. I don't know, I have like general ideas. Like I think someone being like really funny is important to me. Um, yeah, I mean, there's kind of a list, but I have yet to like really, like, once I get in a long-term committed relationship, will I only then realize, okay, like when I, kick him to the curb, like, okay, well, I had to get him out of here because of A, B, and C. They were good for D, Q, and L or whatever. Or just they weren't good at all and
Yeah.
wasted my time. But so that's the kind of learning experience that I'm looking to learn from. But yeah,
Okay, that's good. That does remind me of something. My best friend growing up has told me before that if I was a girl attracted to me, that we would 100% be dating. And I guess like it's kind of a weird thing to just have someone say and
yeah,
name names or anything. You kind of expose them, but I guess I don't know if I've really taken the time to think about that. I was like, okay, I take everything as a compliment, so that's cool. But um, I think processing it now, it makes sense. How we were just saying, like, if you have a lot in common with someone and you work well with them, then I guess like really the attraction is really the only other variable that would allow the make the relationship be in the motion. Um, so if I were to flip the script for everyone who's watching previously who saw Treyon, um, let's just hypothetically say not that Trey picks favorites, but let's say Aaron and Trey are best friends. Um, Aaron, if Trey the woman and he was smoking hot, and I'm sure all his handsomeness translate female form
Oh
in a
yeah.
a different dimension. Do you think you guys dating right now? To you,
That's a that's a good question. That's a juicy one. I I don't think so. Um, that's a cue to play the crazy music, by the way. Um, I that's an interesting thing. Let's see. I think the reason why I feel like we both kind of that's a I'm trying to figure out to put into words, but I think the like we work as friends in a way. Yeah, I guess I don't really I guess I can't right now put it into words, but for whatever reason, like yeah, I guess we our dynamic right now doesn't um translate into like a committed romantic relationship. um
well,
like
that's
we have a good dynamic and stuff. But sorry, you were
oh,
saying?
we're lagging a little bit, but yeah, I wonder if that's because you've known him and only have seen him that way for so long. Do you think it's kind of it's everything in your mind has been like cemented in a much stronger foundation of like you've always viewed Trey as like your best bud that like it'd be weird to disrupt the entire foundation of the friendship and just like swap it and be like, okay, now he's gonna be your babe. Like maybe if like someone just
um
introduced you to Trey, but he was a girl, would you like maybe see more potential if you like were to kind of wipe the slate clean?
yeah, when I was thinking about it, I wasn't thinking about it like I was kind of thinking it from like a you just said like from just meeting him or whatever. But oh wait, what was like the first thing you said for that point there?
You think the foundation of, I mean, you've known Trey for at least 5 years, right?
Let's see, 20, probably like oh yeah, around then, maybe a little more.
So, yeah, if you've known someone for 5 years and you've always thought of them in a certain way, do you think it'd be harder to be asked this question because you're wiping away a lot of how you know them? Like you're taking away so much context of like bro kinmanship, so to speak.
I no, I think if I were to meet him or meet her, um, then I think yeah, I mean, because like we have like like the sense of humor is obviously a big reason of why anyone gets along, but um, yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just a hard thing to answer, but um, I do think it is interesting because I'm sure there. I know I've heard I think probably on Reddit or whatever that some people find that really like almost makes them really uncomfortable and like they wish their friend hadn't said that, but and not that I've never been told it, I don't think, but, like, I just think it's, like, hilarious. I mean, it is, like, a nice thing to say. I don't know, I mean, I guess it's kind of weird, but it's also, like, I don't know, it's cool that 2 people have, like, that, um yeah, I don't know. Um, I think it's not as weird as a lot of people seem to think it is, but yeah.
I yeah, I don't know. I mean we obviously have not known each other as long, and maybe that would help for asking this question. Um, Aaron, I don't know if you were a girl if I would date you. I'm sorry. You're I think you're
Yeah, I'm not
it's
sure either.
um I because I guess the way I picture you is like you're the big funny man, you know, you're the big man on campus with all the jokes, and um I definitely appreciate humor to the max, and I think that is the thing that I'm for in everyone. But um, I am not necessarily that you're like pigeonholed to only being this one type of person, but um, I guess when I think about all my fondest Aaron memories, it's always been like the laughter, and we do get along well, but not in the maybe not in the way of like, oh, like Aaron's my ride or die kind of a thing. Like we just like we share
Uh,
this similar sense of humor that like I think we get along in that sense. But like um I also don't know if I'd be like you'd be like the first person I would pick to live on like a desert island with. Like we'd make jokes about stuff, and then I think you'd encourage me to give up or something, and then we just die probably a weekend. Um,
you know,
I
please, I hope no one would choose me for the desert island question. Like, I will. I don't know what I would do. I would my humor would last like an hour.
yeah. But I think you'd have to say I think you'd have to get along with the person well, and maybe in order to say that you would date your best male friend if they were a girl. In order to qualify saying that, you'd also have to say that would be the person that you would survive on a desert island, I think. Um, and maybe actually no, I don't. I don't think I could survive very well with Trey on a desert island. Trey's not maybe the most optimistic all the time, and in a scenario like that, he's not very outdoorsy either. So I think that'd be very difficult. So um, maybe we could
Mm,
do it, but I'd have to carry the motivational spirits very high in that situation. So I don't know if that's within me,
mm.
but it is interesting to think about like why you're compatible with someone, why wouldn't be, or like in different contexts. So
Yeah, no, for sure. That's one of the things too that I'm kind of trying to figure out is like, um, because okay, so a while ago, uh, so you know Corey, basically a good friend of ours. I was like living with him for like 3 months, and that kind of the topic of like a future lady in my life came up a decent amount. Um, and one yeah, with just one car ride, they were asking me like so like just yeah like give like a list of like what you would see or what kind of person you would picture yourself with. The classic question, and I realized I was just naming myself, and then with like, just in a female version of me, which of course, like obviously you need stuff in common and stuff like that. But I was trying, so I since then I've tried to like figure out which parts of that list. It's like everyone, for example, like everyone needs a sense of humor and or a similar sense of humor and whatever. Like for someone, maybe for some person that's not like their priority, right? For me, I feel like that's up there in the priority. So like that's like a top thing that I would say like is most important to me. Like, I would be bored if by too bored if the future lady just didn't have the I don't even know the good the classic jokester, whatever, the playful spirit, whatever you want to call it. Um,
Aaron wants a girl who has laugh, love, live up in her home. Emphasizes the
man,
laughing.
see, you say that we don't connect enough to that you would date me, but I mean that shows right there. We're on the same wavelength, dude. I'm telling you.
I
Um,
mean, now that I'm saying that, I think if there was, I think I do fall under a very good description of you. I mean, physically we don't look super similar, but if I was a girl, I'd probably be the closest person to you that probably know, and maybe vice versa. I mean, Trey and I are very similar as well. Maybe I'd probably be overstating the
mhm.
importance of tag pro in this scenario as well, but um, we, I mean, I think that's why the three of us are all very get along very well. We all kind of others. So maybe we were looking too
Mm.
short-sighted. Maybe it needs to be a three-way kind of love triangle thing going on. That's a question we should be asking ourselves. But
Wow.
um, sorry to interrupt. Continue on.
Well, that was more or less the gist, but I guess the point being is like when discussing like things that are important for like a future relationship, it's easy to go down and like, oh well, I really value art and I really value humor and oh well they've got to be nice and oh well they've got to be um anyone can list like a bunch of things like that. Like for you kind of have to decide like what, yeah, just like the priorities, right? So like being nice is nice. Like, is that something that like you would like they have to be like a lovely like angel of a person, or is it like, well, I need these things before nice, like whatever that may be. But even then, I feel like people have things in mind that they think are like important to them and like they would need in a partner, but when you meet someone and you connect, I don't know, I guess that's why I've been so interested in what really makes two people like fall in love slash like have such a strong connection. Because like, yeah, I don't know, it's just an interesting thing, and I don't think there really is like a rule or like a I don't know that you could put on paper or like scientifically figure out like if you put these two people in a room, you can say they're gonna connect or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess that's well, I don't know why I would say I guess. I mean that's the whole like doer of love where it's able to stay a mystery since essentially forever because
Mm,
they define it in any sort of way, or like that's why people can write the same songs about it over and over and over, or make
yeah.
movies about it because I think every experience will be different, and you can describe it in like a movie sense or a song sense, and pull stereotypes out from it, but um,
Mm,
it because each person is different, and I'm not saying like oh everyone's super special and unique, but like the way you behave will be like on some degree different than anyone else. And I mean, in a certain degree, you can assume how some people would react, and you can maybe be like, oh, these people's personalities seem to combine well enough to like ship them together or whatever. But
mm,
there's so many variables, or depending on how someone's feeling on a certain day, that can change everything if they were to meet on excuse me, like a totally different day. So it's a weird thing to try and like conceptualize, and know
yeah,
if you
for sure.
really can, but I think it is important to, I guess, yeah, go through that process like you were saying, where it's like, okay, yeah, you can think about what you think is ideal in someone, and then you can also go over, well, what is like how do you directly feel versus like what your values are, and I think that's important to recognize where it's like, yeah, like the synergy and how you get along with someone and the chemistry is super important, but I think a lot of people can then overlook those initial values and boundaries that they set because they're willing to forego everything that they felt like they needed before. And I think that's a thing that,
Right, right.
leads people into like, abusive relationships or into spots
Mhm.
where they are they like sacrifice so much of themselves just to be with this person that doesn't actually treat
Mhm.
them very well, but they feel like they work together. So kind of like we were saying, or we were kind of shooting this idea around earlier, where we're like, okay, what are not necessarily boundaries, but like deal breakers you have? And
Right,
I think if you're willing to forego some of those deal breakers, I think that's fine. But at the same time, you got to remember for yourself, like, okay, these are things that I did value when I wasn't just clouded by whatever this person was intoxicating me with. So I think it is important
right, right,
to kind of be like, okay, take a step back, don't look at it with your rose tinted glasses, and then, look for red flags every now and then. And I
mhm.
think we even, Aaron and I, as a little kind of 4-person immediate friend group, I think we all try and do this too, where like we have a sense of humor that's all eight. And I think I was kind of the catalyst for this of like I have kind of a not kind of I have a very bullying sense of humor, and so I'll make fun of people very jokingly, and I like to believe a lot of the time everyone's on it, and even the person that I'm making fun of is, along for the ride, and I guess that's just kind of like my style of humor, and no one has really called me out on it before, but I do try and take a step back for myself and be like, okay, I want to make sure that no one's feelings are actually getting hurt here. So like, good to communicate about that, even if you feel like something is okay. It's totally healthy to like check in and make sure other people's needs are being met, even when everything seems fine. Like just the verbal communication is
Right.
important. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, like kind of reevaluating yourself in the dynamic slash relationship and the relationship as a whole. And also I mean I've mentioned it before, but for whatever reason, whether it's like body language or whatever, I think it is pretty clear when you make like your I honestly I mean, I know it's like more just a joke like bullying or whatever, but it's pretty clear that it comes off like I think everyone has a pretty good idea that you're not actually it's you can tell that it's in jest is basically what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, like, sorry, I think I heard my dog bark, but um, yeah, it's like yeah, just being aware of, and I do it as well, like just being thoughtful of how just how your behavior can impact others and stuff like that. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to say earlier. Oh, and just in terms of like relationships, like romantic ones, like if you even if like you said that when we were saying like oh chemistry can be weird and like if even if on paper you might get along or whatever um it there's like the kind of that X factor that is out there, I guess. But even if like you do meet someone and there's just like a really strong connection and like yeah, you just get along and it becomes a really strong relationship, even then as well, like things don't always work out, like everyone's probably heard stories or knows someone that are really, really good for a while and people I don't know, they just like grow apart or change over time and um yeah, I think it's just I don't think that's like I guess I'm it up in terms of like I don't even know. I think it's just interesting to think that 'cause I think a lot of people think that if you have a strong relationship and you connect a lot, like, and that's like good forever, but like I don't know that that's certainly true. Also, I need to pause and go let my dog in because I
I
think my roommate just like let her out and then forgot to bring her back in. So one sec.
no worries.
Well, I as I went up and go check on her, he just got her. So
And on. But I do think that was an interesting thing that you were talking about, where um, like anything, I believe there's skill to be had in every category of every facet of life, and for relationships, especially ones where people just assume, oh, these two are really compatible and they're just meant to be together and it'll continue on. I do think there will always be some sort of um, finessing and effort that everyone has to put in to like make something work, and just because two people are on the same page doesn't necessarily mean that like it's gonna grow into something further.
right.
Um, and I guess I see this in just some of like my general friendships where like I feel like I have a lot of uh, like things in common with someone, or that I'm more or less on the same page with them, or we're like on the same wavelength, or we understand each other really well, and so we have great conversation. But if neither person is like willing to put in the effort to reach out to the other and like go hang out or do something fun or interesting or something new, then the relationship will dissolve very quickly. And I see that especially
Mm,
happen a lot if it's like very one-sided and there's only one person asking to go hang out. Um,
yeah.
then like it'll all fall apart no matter how great of a conversation you have with that person. So I think both people still
Mm,
have to be willing to put in effort, even if like see eye to eye. Um, I think that's a difficult thing too, where like you can't just put any relationship on autopilot. You have to constantly foster it and take care of it and keep your attention to it. And
right. Right.
I think that's a thing that I fall into a lot, is where if your priorities lie where your time is being spent with people. Time is like the most valuable thing you can spend with someone, and
Mm,
if someone is not caring to put in the time with you, you essentially know that you aren't a priority. And if you aren't bothering to put in time with someone else, like it might be subconscious, but that's like the biggest signal to you that like, okay, yeah, I if I'm not willing to put in time with these people, then they aren't a priority right now. So I think that it's a good thing to recognize like early on, and you can just like put stuff off so you don't have to worry about it anymore, or like you don't have to let it linger.
mm,
Um, that in the same vein of what you're talking about, where it's like, yeah, people can like get along really well and they can like build the relationship, but it's they don't just like sign the papers and it's over. You gotta keep working and letting it grow and evolving and dedicating it to each other. But then if they start the relationship and focus on their careers, then that's an easy kind of weak point for relationship to lose its gravity, because they're putting more time into themselves and their jobs, which is fine, but they don't find the spaces to commit to each other as well, kind of find what initially got them together, then that's difficult. And I think that uh, at least 50% of divorces in the USA. So I'm just kind of saying when I'm speaking, but I think, just kind of following personal experience and just kind of, you know, X, Y equals MX plus B, it's math really. So think
mhm.
about what you're putting into your relationships versus others, and that's that I kind of keep in mind. And I think it's conscious all the time, but not a bad thing to be
Right.
forced either.
Yeah. What the point you made a little bit. Have you seen the movie La La Land, by the way?
I have not. No, I'm not a very big musical person. Check out a
Oh,
future
that's right.
episode where we come and talk about movies featuring Trey, and Aaron will be there too.
Ooh.
Uh, Trey said he didn't want to talk about movies today, so that's kind of weird. But hopefully
Yeah,
he will be
it's over.
on a future episode and we can talk film. So later for that. But
Tune in.
yeah,
uh,
I was pointing to you. Continue what you were saying.
well, I can't get too into it. Well, I mean, actually, I can't at all, just because. Well, I won't get into specific spoilers, but the thing I
Bleep
was
out
bringing up
everything.
is like, um, actually, no. I'm gonna drop that as a whole, and I think what would be interesting is like these are really, I guess, it'd be worth getting into potential like maybe more personal or like things that we can talk about from experience. Um, like this is all good stuff, but like I think it would mean a lot more potentially like if we I don't know.
You
I
want to
guess
get spicy.
sure. I
Want to
mean,
dive in.
yeah, like get some, get some good juicy stuff going. But I guess the problem with that is in terms of like long-term relationships, I have nothing to speak of. But um, yeah, I don't know. It's something that I am very curious about in terms of just like a general like how it all works and like because I have like two friends. Yeah, like two friends right now. Yeah, that are like in a long-term committed relationship, and like everyone's always, oh, relationship goals. Like like oh, they're so cute and perfect, and I mean, like yeah, I guess they. Oh, are you okay? Um, I don't know. It's just interesting because like when I look at them, like I see kind of why they work and they're good together and stuff, but for also a ton of other reasons. For both couples, like there seems to be yeah, I don't know. I'm curious as to like how the relationship works. If you could even find like a common thread, because like I want to, like I haven't talked to them if they freaking want to be doxxed on the internet, but one of them, for example, really even both of them, just I guess you can see how they're similar and how they're different, right? So like okay, here's a good example. Like one of the couples, the girl is a really creative, like works in design and like it's just a pretty artsy person. And the other is like totally just not like they don't really connect on that level. Um, which is weird, I guess, from my point of view. And of course, all people or people like art their relationship with art and how much they or what they how it a part of their life is different for everyone. But like for me, I don't know. I feel like I would need my long-term partner to be, I mean, pretty into art and like have strong opinions about it and like um, I just really enjoy it and potentially make some of it on their own. So I guess it was weird for me, like that means that they're like a doomed relationship, but it's just interesting that some things that are like because it seems like I mean that's literally like what she wants to be her career, right? So that it's clearly really important to her. And in spite of that, they both work. I mean, they've been dating for no, I don't know, multiple years, and they seem to work really well. Um, Yeah, I think it's just interesting to understand, see why people work, and yeah, I find that really a curious thing to look into.
I see so much potential here to bring on guests and just grill 'em. Why do you guys even like each
Yeah,
other?
yeah.
Because I have two friends as well who have been in 3 and like 6 year long relationships, or they're getting married and stuff like that. For
Mm.
reference, I'm 22 and Aaron's 9 right now, so um, haha, that's not very funny. Aaron's 24, and um, it, it would make such a good couple. Aaron, we're so funny together. Um, but that would be really interesting if we wanted to all the single ladies could prepare some questions, and then if they were in, that'd be really interesting to chat to them about. Maybe you could pick one of your pairs, and I'll pick one of mine, and then and that'd be a good follow up episode. Something further to come from this conversation. We can do some investigative
Sure.
research for all the people who
Yeah.
haven't been grinding out those years, because I haven't really, yeah, bet anything that lasted long months really. I have one other saga that it's story time video, but
Mm.
um that I don't think it's really at all applicable to what Aaron's talking about. So um yeah, we'll contact some people, dial some numbers, and we'll see if they'd be willing to come in on. I feel like this has to be like a reoccurring show now. The um
Mm.
Aaron relationship. So the would you date your best friend if they were a girl ship? But we'll
That
see what we
actually
can
is
do.
kind of interesting. A lot of Yeah, a lot of those kinds of shows. It would be interesting to have a show like that from the point of view of more or less somewhat inexperienced people, and then potentially as we find the ladies and have experience, then the viewers can grow with us, or we'll just find that, and then we just have to date each other, and that's all that happens.
Stay tuned for the
Uh,
season finale. Yeah.
yeah, holy crap! No, that's. I actually have tossed around the idea of like interviewing, um, yeah, just people who are on different paths of their like romantic um paths. Like people who have dated and had bad experiences, and had people who have good ones. Like what? Like I just think it's so interesting. Like and like for example, the not the couple that I didn't talk about, they got married. Um, and so it's really so they were like not. I talked with both of them, and they were like, like I don't know, who cares? Like, I guess we'll get married eventually. They weren't really like rushing to the court or whatever. And then out of nowhere, they just kind of started talking about it, and their family got involved, and fucking they were just like, all right, yeah, we're putting a wedding on. Um, not that that's like that was a bad decision or anything, but it's just interesting to like why. I get the feeling they kind of did it for when I had asked him at least once. Like it seemed like it was, oh, like we talked to the family and it seemed like a good time, or whatever it was. But um, like they weren't just like there, putting on a show. Like they obviously cared and had like the committed, emotional whatever aspect of a wedding seemed to be clearly there. And I mean, he was crying and all that good stuff. So um, yeah, I don't know. It's all that sort of stuff is beyond fascinating to me. So
Mm, I think it's really interesting as well. And I mean, you also see plenty of this kind of topic on the opposite end of like radio shows or on online posts where people are like, "Oh, I'm going through this drama with my significant other," and yada yada yada. And I got so many times I ask like, "How did you even get a relationship with this type of person? Like, how were you not able to tell that this person was gonna carjack you with your baby in it and then go sell cocaine on Bring Your Child to Work Day?" You know what I'm saying? Where it's like I feel like so many of these things have to be in the cards, and I think that was almost what I was referring to with that earlier statement about knowing what your values are, even when you're so deeply intertwined with someone else. Where like you gotta know where to draw the
Yeah.
line with someone, because I see so many things of like, especially with like, oh, my mother-in-law is crazy or something like that, or the scenarios where it's like uh, one person in particular I remember recently where it was my husband brought the mother brought his parents to like their 1 year anniversary or something like that, and it was like how
Oh,
and like the the husband saw nothing wrong with that, and then the mother-in-law was insulting her like the entire time and she just left. And like I don't know how you can get into a relationship with someone like that, with like
yeah.
totally blindsiding yourself from everyone else. And I mean, I assume to some degree you had to be like manipulated a little bit just to not be able to like have anyone else tell
Mm,
you, oh, this person is a complete dunce and they're totally under the control of their parents still. Um, so like that'd be really interesting to go over as a person who I guess maybe
yeah.
I kind of have the opposite, where like I'm not really willing to get intertwined with anything unless I know this person is like 10,000% legit. So maybe there's like a certain amount of avoidance in the other direction that I'm in.
I
And
think at least on my end, we're like frozen big time.
yeah, you're frozen for me. I know on the recording people, at least since I'm recording it still, so I kept spitting my bars, but I think you're back here.
Okay.
But that'd be interesting to investigate further. Um, I don't think I want to get into a relationship by just overlooking a whole bunch of flaws someone has. Um,
Yeah.
but I think there are certainly a lot of people that are willing to do that because they have no other support system, or their self-esteem is so low that they're just willing to accept anyone that will, even if they're treating them like trash, like that's still someone that they
Mm,
can like look up to in a certain twisted sense. So I I feel
yeah.
like that must be how a lot of those relationships are. But it would be interesting to look at some other healthy relationships and understand, okay, how are they together and how are they functioning well, and then um, are there anything that are deal breakers they thought initially that they're willing to overlook for this person? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll have to have some guests, sure, but this is interesting current topic where we can look in the magnifying glass and see a little bit further.
Dude, it's interesting that you brought that up. I feel like we're both okay in terms of like you read like a post online or whatever, or hear a story like you were saying of like the weirdly, yeah, I've had the similar reaction of like, how do people get into like a committed long-term relationship or even married and like have some glaring wild moment like that? And like I've come to the same conclusion, and it's like I think because you and me, or I mean, I can speak for myself, and I get I'm just gonna freaking assume that you're like this as well. Um, speak for you is really more accurate. Like we're more thoughtful in the sense that like we consider, or I'll speak for myself, but
And you can
I
call me thoughtful if you want.
consider like it seems like there's a lot of people that not that it's like necessarily a bad thing because I could use to act before I think a lot, like, or act. Basically, I think through all my decisions, like, to an extent that is almost holds me back, or no, does hold me back sometimes. So I think a lot of people, or maybe even most people, just kind of calling it autopilot is a little like, I'm not trying to like just call most people just like moronic robots, but like it does seem that like a lot of people just like kind of, I don't really know how to explain it without it coming off like I'm better than everyone. So sure, I'm better than everyone. Uh, like they could just kind of do things in without much thought, in the sense that, yeah, whatever. I'll go with that. I'll just be a I'll take the ego route. Like,
Just do it.
seems like they just kind of, yeah, they just go with what, yeah, like they don't think or reflect a lot, which isn't like, oh, whatever. I'm just gonna say things, and however it comes off is how it comes off. I think that's so interesting because, like, to me, like, well, you can do that with a lot of things, but with like a committed long-term relationship that like is worth intertwining with like another person's family and like getting married, like it's literally insane to me even start to go down that route unless you were very sure of like, I don't know, like I feel like that's like those sorts of crazy stories where like you said, like the husband freaking brings his family along. Like, how does that just randomly come out of nowhere? And it does make me think like, yeah, like people, I don't know, like people really want to be with someone else. If it works enough that they can kind of believe that, um, or not even believe, but they can almost maybe fool themselves, sadly. Like, I don't know, maybe there's just a lot of people that go through with things and commit even because they want that reality in spite of potential flags that it isn't the reality. Um, so yeah, like I, because I always look at, that's kind of, I guess it's more interesting that that's my perspective. That's like my point of view is I approach things like, if I'm going to date and I'm going to do this, that, and the other, like, like I'm going to be so sure. And like, we're going to have multiple very long conversations of like, okay, we're going to go the full 9 yards here. Like, are we on the same page, Um, and I know, just to be specific again to one of the couples, like I definitely know that's part of what one of the guys, um, like makes him kind of who he is that he's a very just like in the moment, like he he's a thoughtful guy, but in the sense that he just like, I don't know, like, he just, yeah, just goes for it in the moment. Yeah, I'm kind of losing my train here, but I think it's
Yeah,
interesting that you brought that up because that's my experience as well.
I'm certainly picking up what you're laying down, and I think I'm fine to kind of like fall into something like that where like it doesn't necessarily have to be the most formal thing, and if something feels right, then it feels right. But I would
Mhm.
agree for like officializing things, I want to communicate that really well, and then I guess almost it's almost like you're moving in with someone, even if you're not like physically moving in. Like you'd want to set like ground rules for the house and make sure like, okay, they're gonna be your responsibilities for this. These are gonna be mine, and this is how we're gonna work together.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
because I think if you want to be in a relationship that holds or that like puts limitations on kind of not necessarily who you can see. I mean, like whatever you want to agree to, but like if you want to be like exclusive to each other, let's use that term, then like you'd probably want to like communicate like, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with you doing this, or like all right, no more going to the strip club anymore now that we're like together. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you would at least want to be on the same page about what you were both comfortable with. So I definitely
Right.
agree with you. And then um, what else was I gonna say? I guess I just wanted to elaborate on like yeah, the sort of the people who get into relationships that maybe seem like they have no idea what they're doing or they let themselves get walked over. I also wonder if a lot of that is maybe they didn't have a great childhood where they like understood what like maybe respect in a relationship meant, or like maybe their
Mm,
parents didn't weren't like great examples of that, and so they don't really understand how they should be being treated. I wonder if that can be a
right.
large component, um, because I think if you're yeah willing to walk into a situation like that, you're probably already used to getting walked over. So yeah, there's probably a lot of
Yeah.
people who aren't setting their own boundaries, being an issue. Um, and I guess I think for myself at least, I think there's always a degree of like, oh well, you don't really want to get hurt in relationships. That's not very pleasant. So I think there's a good amount of like cost avoidance isn't really the right word, but you're trying to avoid a situation that's gonna like make you more uncomfortable. So like you're just kind of cool where things may be, or like you don't try and pursue further. So I think that plays in like my own personal experiences. Um,
Mhm.
but there. I mean, there are so many variables, but I do think it goes back to kind of what we were originally saying of like, yeah, finding what values are, and like you have to have a good amount of self respect too in order to move forward. So you know how you should be being treated. Um, and even for like yeah, the other relationships, like if you're like always the butt of the joke and you're not laughing too, and if that's how your regular
Mm,
relationship is, then maybe used to it, and you may just always be knocking yourself down a peg. So, um,
mm.
or about, but I guess that's thoughts on that. Um, unless you have on your mind.
So I was just kind of thinking, yeah, talking about like the using that like again the wedding or not the one anniversary example. It's not even just that. I think yeah, the real reason that that's so wild is not just that, why were they, how could they be together so long? Like it's it's like any person, like I could be dating someone for a month and or I don't even need to be dating someone. No one don't bring your parents along for an anniversary date or whatever. But then he was dating her for a year, right? So that it's more simple than that. It's like how does someone not read the room for this person that supposedly like they're I mean, 1 year isn't like an insane amount of time, but it's enough to like I don't know, it's wild to me that yeah, I don't even know. Um and I do think also like things it's easy to think like from our point of view like oh they're just like it's like I mean who knows the whole story and whatever but like these are just like oh like I can't like they must have just been getting in the relationship for all the wrong reasons or whatever. Even then, still people sometimes like out of nowhere can be in a really good relationship and someone's hiding something for a long time or you can get surprised by people you've known for a while. So I don't think it's important to keep in mind that it is easy for from the outside to be like mind boggled by how something so just absurd could be that could happen. But yeah, I don't know, weird things happen, and people are always full of surprises and just insane in general. So, um, yeah, I think that's worth note.
Yeah, that's super true. And I mean, when you're older, like a year can go by like that, and especially if you're
Yeah.
just kind of like living alongside someone and uh maybe, I mean, I think a lot of times people just end up being like roommates together more than anything else. And so, yeah, if you just kind of passively go along like this and, oh, maybe you just kind of know like mother-in-law is kind of annoying or whatever, and maybe he's like pulled some kind of wonky stuff before, but you didn't think a ton of it, then I could
Right.
see how, yeah, something like this could come as a surprise. And I think it's like the sunken cost fallacy kind of comes into it too, where it's like, oh well,
Yeah.
I've been in this relationship for so long, and then I gotta. You feel like you're willing to let a lot more slide because you feel like you've invested a lot into this person. And you're like, well, they're already moved in together, and then that's another step, and like each step you take to getting closer is another step to taking of like harder to get out.
Mm,
And I think that's almost like relating to what I was saying earlier of like that's why maybe I have like a fear and a certain degree of like, well, you go too far into the void, then you can't come back out of the void. And
mm,
so, if you're willing to put your money into that stock, then it's worthwhile. But some people just ride the ride the dip all the way down, and it does not come back
yeah.
up. So
Yeah, for
that
sure.
is a really good point that you brought up, where it's like it is easy to kind of get into wonky situations, and I think it's weird for us because we're like we want to look at everything before getting into a a serious relationship with someone. So um
Mm,
and if that's not that person, then yeah, probably a lot more slid by them. So they could be maybe more rational than we're thinking, but um yeah, there's a lot of variables that can let something build up more into them being a total psycho. So yeah, gotta
indeed, dude.
count your steps every day and get 10,000 steps every day. It's a healthiness check-in 1 hour point. Um, that's good to bring
There
up,
you go.
but
Yeah, drink
yeah,
some water, folks.
drink some water. But I guess that's also why we were saying like you take a step back from any of your relationships and kind of retrace what's going on. Are you being respected and all that? And like how we were saying at the start, because even if like you are kind of letting things slide, um, you know, there are points to check in if okay if this is healthy for me, not waste of time, is it not, can this be
Yeah,
more or not. So definitely check in with yourself. I mean it's kind of a chore, but I'm almost 100% sure it'll save you more time and a heartache and pain than
yeah,
and like having to actually like go through and fight those battles with those people in the future. So um that's biggest takeaway.
sure. Amen to that.
Anything else you want to bring up? We just hit about an hour, so that's a hefty amount. I can keep going if you have any
Yeah.
other fresh ideas.
No, yeah, I think that is good. I'm probably at the point where I could maybe go on for a little bit more, but I do have a few things to get to. But I mean, I think that was a pretty solid couple like topics and discussions. So,
Yeah, and I think we kept it focused in enough, so that's good.
mhm.
Um, Anything you want to shout out right now at the end here for my super large audience for everyone watching at home?
Freaking come to the Tag Pro subreddit. You'll see a post from me anywhere from uh a week from now or a year from now that I'll be doing a little event for the community there. But other than that, I don't know. Just be a good little Twitch chatter. good little boys and girls. Play some Among Us with your friends. Adios.
All right. Well, thank you for hopping on and being in the video, Aaron. And hopefully we can have some of those special guests we were talking about. And maybe you
Mhm.
should write down some questions you want to specifically ask them. Get any of the people that we're thinking about on. That would be quite fun, and at least we
Yeah.
can learn a lot. So
Yeah. No. Good stuff.
other than that, goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.